Hi guys, my name is Emily Wright and I'm here today to talk to you about ESL students. So to begin, I kind of just want to give you a rundown of who an ESL student is, what importances we need about their needs that we need to be aware of as future teachers, and kind of just the importances in general of who the ESL student is. So to begin, what does ESL stand for, and who are the students involved? So ESL stands for English as a Second Language. It's a term that's used for students and programs and or fields of study. Um, the students that are involved are individuals whose primary language is one that is other than English and or whose first learned language is other than English. So now we'll kind of jump into why it's important for future teachers to explore the needs of ESL students. First and foremost, there are currently more than 180 different language groups that are represented by America's schools, and there are programs provided for over 3 million ESL students. ESL students are making up for a significant portion of the nation's school population, and this population is growing twice as fast as native English speaker populations. So, with that being said, there are a lot of ESL students within our school systems, and I think that alone is example enough as to why it's important for us to explore the needs of them. But if that is not enough to be said, it also falls within making a commitment to positive DEI practices. And I spoke with a couple of teachers that are in some schools that are near me, and there are some new requirements for these newer teachers coming in that requires you to be ESL certified before you can begin teaching. So all of those things combined makes it really, really important for us to explore the needs of ESL students. We're going to go ahead and quickly jump into what the implications of intersectionality when approaching DEI in the classroom kind of means. And to me, I think that as educators, we should be implying that we'll be aware of the following things when we practice and apply DEI concepts in the classroom. So, the first and foremost one that I want to talk about is being aware of oneself and personal identity, who you are as an educator, as a person, what identities that you personify by. I think that knowing who you are and what your identities are really helps be aware of who others are and their identities are. Which brings me to my next point. Um, Another thing that should be aware of is others and their multiple identities. This is huge for ESL students because they're going to be coming from lots of different cultural backgrounds. And if you can be aware of who they are and their multiple identities that they have, it really will just help DEI in the classroom entirely. Also, being aware of systemic issues, being aware of the professional decisions that are made and the impact that they may have on students. And then kind of any ways in which identity-based systems of oppression will connect or influence one another. Since we are dealing with ESL students that come from lots of different cultural backgrounds, this could mean anything from societal to economical to political. And it's best to just be aware of them so that there are any complications that we can just kind of know exactly how to approach them. In addition, I think that it should be implied that these educators make a commitment to consistently monitoring and reviewing educational practices. By doing so, we can demonstrate a recognition and appreciation of cultural differences and just differences in general. And this will only help us as educators maintain educational equity for all students. So, ESL students have the right to an equal education. There are some policy guidelines, just a couple of them that I want to go through that kind of tell us what that means and what their rights are. So, specifically, so sorry, my mouse is right in the middle. Specifically, specific policies that are catered to the rights of ESL students. So, first, we have the ESSA, the Every Student Succeeds Act, which was signed into law by Obama in 2015. It was previously the No Child Left Behind Act that mandated that all public schools help ESL students become English proficient. So this is kind of the updated version of that, still aiming to ensure that English learners and immigrant students attain English proficiency and develop high levels of academic achievement in English. Also assisting all English learners to meet the same challenging state academic standards that all students are expected to meet. The next one that I want to talk about is the Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So this one prohibits discrimination based on race, color, and nationality in programs or activities that are receiving federal financial assistance, aka the public school system. And examples of the discriminations that are covered would include school segregation, racial harassment, and denial of services to English learners. So these are pretty important in understanding, because we need, as again, as educators, knowing the rights of ESL students can only help us be further aware of their needs and help us further advocate for their academics. So to kind of jump in to what strategies would be useful in order to help them and advance DEI, there are several strategies that are out there that will help ESL students. I chose 4 of them to discuss, not that they are any or less important than the others, but these are the 4 that I thought we should discuss. So for starters, assessing the student's needs, encouraging a sense of belonging, providing opportunities for success, and promoting appreciation for cultural diversity and bilingual education. So we'll kind of jump into those a little bit more. First and foremost, assessing the students' needs. I think this is huge for ESL students, especially since they are going to be having different proficiency levels. So kind of understanding where they are in their education, where they are in their English proficiency, assessing their goals in learning or what they want to learn. Sometimes they may have learned something in their native language and they want to continue learning down that path, but might have a halt just because they are like now learning it in English. So we do need to maybe assess their needs, understand their learning style and their proficiency level, and then just empathize with them, see where they're coming from when they are kind of letting us know what their needs are. The next thing is encouraging a sense of belonging for these students. Being aware that they might be experiencing some culture shock in the classroom is something that I find really huge. Don't let them feel like they're alone in their education. As an educator, I think that's really huge. Understand that it might be overwhelming for these students at first. And then once that student's needs are kind of assessed, we can encourage connection, whether that be teacher-student connection or connecting with their peers in group work or activities, just making the student feel very comfortable and welcome in the classroom. The next one that I'd like to discuss is providing opportunities for success. These students need to feel that they can continue to advance, and encouraging participation from them and small group work activities where they have plenty of opportunities to speak. I think that is really important. Um, Understanding what the student is comfortable doing and maybe providing them with opportunities to further showcase their advancements or further advance, just making sure that they are set up academically to continue to succeed and to advance. The next one, last but not least, promoting an appreciation for cultural diversity and bilingual education. This is something that is important for ESL students specifically, just because, like I've said a few times now, they are all coming from different cultural backgrounds, and it's likely that you will see different cultures in your classrooms and different languages in your classrooms. And so valuing the student's native language and supporting development in the first native language along with English is something that can only help further enhance your relationship with them and make them feel like they're heard, that they don't have to kind of give in to this culture shock. Consider adopting some lesson plans that cater to cultural diversity so as to connect the students. a lot of students come from different cultural backgrounds. And if they can kind of see that everybody has differences, it can only further connect them and make them feel a little bit more comfortable in the classroom. And then this could be a strategy all on its own. I chose to involve it here, just encouraging and valuing family participation. There might be some times where the family is all the student knows that speaks their native language, so they feel really comfortable with them. So involving them, maybe even getting a translator sometimes to kind of connect student teacher activities, lessons, and just cultural back, just being really aware of that is something that I find would be um, something that would be really big for DEI in the classroom. I want to share with you a couple videos. This one is about a student that is talking about what is important to her and what was important to her about learning English, what their teachers did for them. So let's go ahead and take a look here.
Way, especially my teachers, that they supported me, and so it will be more easier for me. Teachers should know that they gotta support their students, and that is not always easy for them, and that they also have pressure on them, on their backs, and they don't know how to handle it, and it causes really big stress.
So what I really like about that video, even though it's a short little clip, was just the students talking about what was important to them and what stood out that their teachers kind of did for them. And what I like what she said is that teachers just have to know that they um, that the students need to feel supported, that the teachers are supporting them. So I thought that was an important thing to share. It's always good to hear where the students are coming from. This next video is another ESL student, and they're just talking about what they are enjoying about learning English. So take a look here.
Actually, you can say the interesting thing for studying English here, I found many cultures from many countries in this country, Canada. Good for me and good for them also to communicate and make a friendship.
So with that video clip, I realized that it's not so much he's talking about academics necessarily or teachers, but that he's talking about learning English is good for him and good for the other classmates, that they're beginning to connect and have a friendship. And although it's not necessarily having to do with academics, you can just kind of tell where these students are, where their needs are. He's clearly happy that he's making a connection, and that can only help you know, continuing to advance, feeling like you belong, as I mentioned before. So now we'll kind of get into rigor, relevance, and relationships when it comes to these ESL students and why this is the key to reaching them. So of course, we'll start with rigor. Ensuring that the material is challenging, but give them the proper opportunities and tools for the challenges to be overcome. So sorry, where's the chair? Okay. Giving them the proper tools and tools for the challenges to be overcome. Ensuring that the material is not too challenging to the point where it's discouraging, and encourage acquiring new skill sets or enhancing their current skill sets. You know, they'll be learning lots of different materials and they're also learning English at the same time. So they're advancing their education. So you never know what they have maybe learned in their native language and where they're at unless you kind of assess their needs. It kind of all comes full circle when we're talking about rigor. And also when we're talking about relevance, ensure that the material is meaningful and cultural. Ensure that the material is relevant to where they stand on an academic level. Never just assume that a student is somewhere because they speak a different language. Making sure that you're being very aware of approaching these things with DEI in mind, with intersectionality in mind, and understand that what is relevant to one student may not be relevant to all students. I realize that I'm speaking of rigor and relevance in very, very vague standards, but these all come together in the end. These are huge for all students, but for ESL students alike. And then next is relationships. Um, Developing relationships with students makes rigor and relevance more organic, establishing a sense of belonging, and it encourages student success rates. As I've said throughout this presentation, these students are coming from different cultural backgrounds. They do experience a little bit of culture shock. Making sure that we're developing that relationship with them can only help them feel like we understand them, that we hear them, and that there is someone that's got their back when it comes to their education. When they feel that way, they're willing to accept challenges. They're willing to continue making academic strides. And this is really important for them. It can only encourage their sense of belonging. It can only encourage how they're performing academically. And I think that's really why it's key for them. Why rigor, relevance, and relationship is key for ESL students. So that's all I have for you. Thank you so much for listening to me today. And here's my bibliography. Thank y'all very much. Bye.